What's up, everyone? This is the Go Long Podcast coming at you live from Fatty Beer Company in Orchard Park, New York. Jim, I wish you were sitting right here next to me. You know, our schedules couldn't quite align with work/kids, but we're making it happen. This is where we're going to be midweek, every week, with Go Long subscribers, week 2 on. So be on the lookout for all the details at golongtv.com. And when exactly we'll be here, because we want to meet everybody, we want to hang out. And yeah, it's a pretty sweet deal, right? We got a nice little fireplace behind us, drinking a little Montucky lager. They got beer from all over the country.
Where's that beer from?
Doing a little research on the fly here. So it is from.
I always like knowing where those beers are from, because it's always cool to see. Like, I love trying them.
Oh yeah, Montana, Bozeman, Montana. There you go. So there it is. But obviously, you have to start with the Pulp Daddy Juicy Hazy New England IPA, which always goes down smooth.
I'm a hazy IPA type, especially to lead it off. That's my Ricky Henderson beer.
Yeah,
I'm all about that hazy to get the day started. So I like it.
That's right. You want to get a good leadoff hitter going.
I think it's important to get the lead off. Yep, to get it going. You don't want to start with I like to finish with my champagne, a beer with the High Life. But I like to start with a hazy.
Just hung out with Nick Fatty. He was in the house, the king of beer himself here in Western New York. So he wanted to let everybody out there know, thanks for coming along for the ride. It's going to be a fun year.
Yeah, I think it's going to be good.
Hell yeah, it's going to be a great time. Also, Fatty Beer, there's several locations throughout New York State. For $30 during Bills games, you can get all you can drink at any Fatty location in New York State. So that's a pretty good deal if I've ever heard one.
That's a first quarter.
Yeah.
When I used to go out by myself, that's first quarter right there. $30.
I know that's I had to lift up the piece of paper and bring it over and read it again to make sure I'm seeing the right thing here.
That's strong.
Well, it's a hell of a deal. Just great people over here. So we are thrilled to have a new host for the podcast. And midweek, we're going to take a look at the games ahead and really try to drill down on some sort of theme, Jim. And we did our pre-podcast planning for a good, 4.5 minutes there, but I think we're in agreement on what we got to talk about into this one. It's coaching. Seattle, Denver came down to coaching, and we've got to come clean, Jim. We've been blowing an awful lot of smoke up one butt of Nathaniel Hackett on this show, and I still will. I still like him. I do love the combination of him and Russell Wilson over the long haul. I think Denver still makes the playoffs. I think Denver is good. But what in the hell was that?
So I don't know. Were we blowing smoke, or were we just talking about what we know about Hackett as Nathaniel? I can't really speak for him as a head coach. I never did. I did speak about him as a person, his energy, his positive energy. We spoke to him about EJ, with EJ Manuel, and I had questions. Yeah, and because he is very, he's so prepared. This is what's surprising about last night is Hackett is detailed, intelligent. He really is. That was a collapse. And we've talked about it on this show where coaches don't win games. They don't, but they can lose games for you. And this weekend was a great example of how head coaches weren't making the right decisions to win games for their teams. That is hard to take. If you're Atlanta, if you're Houston, if you're Denver, you can't fall apart. That's up to the coach to keep that thing together. When you have a double-digit lead, or it's situational football, or you're inside the 10 3 times like Denver was and get no points, hey, we're all for going for it, right? And we're against. But, you do have to weigh some things sometimes. And you're playing Geno Smith. You're playing Seattle's offense. You're not threatened by them. They're not putting up points. They scored 17 points. 17. You don't have to go for it every time you're in. Field goals matter in a game like that. If you're struggling a little bit on offense, Seattle's they're not going to score 30. So you have to weigh things sometimes as a decision maker. And I'm talking about Atlanta too. And these teams in Houston playing for the tie. And I don't know. I just, a lot of questionable for me. And I don't like to look, it's easy to be hard on GMs after drafts or now you can be hard on GMs and we're hard.
I love slamming your ass back in the day.
Well, yeah, look, we've done, and I can, and I admit personnel, we make a lot of mistakes too, but sometimes you have to remember coaches make mistakes as well. And I think about Hackett, I never really talked about it, but Nathaniel and I spent time after Marone left at Buffalo's Best right on Southwestern, right down from the stadium in Orchard Park. And he basically was asking, he just wanted a shot at an interview. Like, Jim, I'm ready, and I wasn't on the interview committee at the time, but he wanted me to speak to Whaley and Russ Brandon and to see if I could get him on the list. And they had their list ready and it was too soon. It was post Marone. That was good. I didn't think about that. Post Marone, post Marone era. But
tomato.
Yeah, but he wasn't getting an interview. And I remember thinking to myself, I wonder what he would be like as a head coach. I mean, he's so into it. His dad obviously was a head coach, and usually those guys are, man, that last night goes to show you can be a great play caller or whatever. You can coach Blake Bortles and get famous for it. And you better win that game last night. That's on you. I'm sorry. That's a tough one for me to take. These players play too hard and work too hard to have. My biggest issue with that last night, the Denver game, is when those guys were coming off the field, he literally had a smile and was shaking their hands, not just Russell, like almost like, hey, great job. Hey, great job. Got us down the field. Almost like, hey, we're going to kick this thing, like we did it. A 64-yard field, you ran one play with you had a minute 11 seconds. You ran one play with 3 timeouts. Tyler, you tell me, because I'm being a little hard. Now, I bet on Seattle last night, so I'm pretty happy right now for Hackett. But how is that not fireable? And I know he's not getting fired, and he shouldn't get fired. I'm not saying he should be fired for that. But would you say that is a fireable offense? If you're the owner of the Denver, okay, George Patton, the GM, you went out and spent all this money on Russell, and then as the GM, you hired Hackett. How do you talk to the owner today? Because Hackett destroyed the game, and the quarterback, to be honest, he looked old. Did he look like a playmaker to you last night?
I don't want to talk because you're on a roll, Jim. I just want to shut up and let you go.
Sorry, I'm like asking you questions and I'm answering them because I'm so like, I guess I watch games, like I get angry for people that I think deserve chances as coaches that don't even get interviews and guys get, that's my thing. It's like, how does he get this job? That's what you're hired to do.
The Denver Broncos dominated the game. They're clearly superior. I get it. It's the easy narrative, the easy talking point today. We're talking here on a Tuesday is Geno Smith, year 9. What a win. With everything he's been through and in Seattle flying around, Jamal Adams goes down. They have these goal line stands. I don't want to talk about any of that. I think Seattle is Seattle. They're not going to be good this year.
I picked them to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. Yeah. That might be why I'm like, and I bet on because of the number. I got it at 7. I didn't even need it, but I took the 7 points, which is a major number when you're gambling, right? That's that magic number if you can get it. But that's not a good football team.
Denver outgained Seattle 433 to 253. Okay. They each had 8 drives. Third down, Denver was 8 of 15. They threw the ball well, 330 through the air. They were pretty efficient, 29 of 42. Russell Wilson was only sacked twice. They had over 100 yards rushing. Denver did have a ton of penalties, right? They had 12 penalties. That will kill you. But from a pure production, like using your own eyes, watching this game, Denver was the better team. Russell Wilson, Cortland Sutton, like we talked about on here, I think that could be something special. Jerry Jeudy had a big play. Javonte Williams is a stud. You've got no business losing this game.
That's why I'm so angry right now, because I'm putting myself, like, sometimes I take myself into the, like, if I'm working there and having to talk to Terry Pagula like I used to have to, or all the time, and answer to the owner. How do you
What was that
answer
like? I think our listeners would love to know what that meeting is like after a game, talking to Terry Pagula.
On one like that? Like, I can tell you what we were watching, like when we played in London against Jacksonville and EJ was in and had that disastrous first half. And we had told Terry Pagula we felt comfortable with EJ as our number 2. Like, we felt like he was very good as a number 2. And that first half, we were sitting kind of in the, like, you're in the owner's suite we're in London, but Terry and Kim are back in, Willie and I are sitting out in the seats and they're sitting back behind the glass. And at halftime, Willie looked at me and he's like, well, let's go to the principal's office. We just have to go take our wounds right now. And there's really not, it's like, he was pretty pissed. Now EJ, to his credit, bounced back in that second half. And I still think we should have won that game, but Post Marone got us over there. Post Marone got us over in London. But to your question, it's not fun. Because
speaking of Marone, I heard some not so good things about him over the weekend, by the way. Talking to somebody who coached for him. I don't know, just toss this out there quick.
I'd like to hear that more, because I do think he's a good football coach, but I wonder if he's a better offensive line coach than a head coach. I don't know that.
This is from his Jacksonville days, and this is why it's kind of relevant to this conversation, right? Because Nathaniel Hackett, I think, remember, we had Connor Orr on. We talked about Hackett with Connor, and Connor's actually going to come on a podcast next week, we're hoping.
Good.
But here's a coach in Hackett who schematically is very innovative, who's going to grind. He's going to be pouring in the hours you want. He's going to be, but not only that, he's going to be thinking next level, to stay a step ahead. And
that's why
you pair him with Russell Wilson. Like, that's a perfect combination. Between what Russell Wilson's gifts are as a quarterback, to be mobile, to create his own passing windows, to operate at the line of scrimmage, with Nathaniel Hackett being very player friendly, player driven, putting the ball in your hands with the right amount of innovation. It seems perfect, but there's also this element of game management that he has never had to handle before, right? It's totally different. That's why some of the best head coaches ever, they're not calling plays on either side. They're Bill Belichick in the Super Bowl against Seattle, like, just staring at Pete Carroll and Seattle's coaches, Darrell Bevell, across the line of scrimmage, daring you to do something after Marshawn Lynch runs to the 1 yard line. Remember, like, that Belichick was playing that mind game in the moment, because he's not thinking about anything else. He's not thinking about devising plays. He's not thinking about calling plays. He's thinking about game management, how I will own you with everything on the line. And Seattle panicked, and they figured, all right, we'll throw now, and then we'll have one more play. And they threw, and it was intercepted. Okay? So there's that element of things, game management, that Nathaniel Hackett you don't have unless you get it with experience. And just to bring it back to Marone, I mean, here's a coach that I don't know how he is as a game manager. I think that he, like, to your point, he probably is a good football coach in a lot of respects, but he doesn't have that offensive innovation. I mean, I was told in Jacksonville how he's doing the old Zimmer thing, right? Like, hey, we got to win with defense. Sticking his nose into the offensive room, run the ball, win with defense. What we're doing isn't working.
So you would play for Post Marone.
Yeah, I mean, it's don't let me in with that. He's like, it was an edict from above. That was
what's funny though,
Minnesota.
But what's funny is I don't want to joke around about that too much, because what coach doesn't want to have great defense and be able to run the ball? Like, there's my thing with what I noticed was I never thought Marone connected with the players like you need to. And that might be why, to your point, like Zimmer, same way probably. And Hackett Marone would not have blown that game situationally. Marone was outstanding, I thought. And he had Danny Crossman was our special teams coach in Buffalo, one of Marone's closest friends. That guy you need a guy like that on your side. Special teams coaches, coordinators are so good with situational football. And you need to lean on them. If you're calling the plays and you're too caught up in things, You need to say, hey, what do we need to get to? When should I use my timeout? Use them. That's why you have a staff.
Did you just inadvertently wrap up the 2021 Buffalo Bills at Arrowhead Stadium when a squib might have come in handy? And the plan was to squib, and that's what everybody on the kickoff coverage unit thought was coming.
Lean on your special teams coaches. They're good. They are so good with rules and time management that yes, I am. You lean
That's
on
why
them.
some of the best coaches were special teams coordinators, right? John Harbaugh.
And we talked about this before. Your head coach. Now, look, I worked, under Sean Payton and Andy Reid. Now they did call plays, but they grew into that. I mean, it was, they grew into the whole CEO, and Andy Reid always got criticized for time management early in his career. So Hackett can take some, you're going to learn some lessons. Shoot, you learn lessons when you're running a draft or free agency, and you learn real quick. Like, look, hey, don't trade up for a receiver if you don't have the quarterback. Like we learn lessons, but you don't want to learn it when you don't want to lose a game or bust on a pick or lose the game for that. And that's kind of the result last night.
But I will take Nathaniel Hackett. Give me the offensive coach who needs to learn the game management over the game manager that is going to have to learn how to be innovative offensively.
Like Seattle their offense still made me want to puke last night. Like, that's not getting anywhere.
No.
That was fun for one night at home. That's a fun home opener at night. That's not going to get it done. 17 points against a team who and you said it best. You read the stats. That was Denver's game to win. It
was. I mean, Seattle deserves their moment, deserves this win. That place was
great job.
Raucous. And Geno Smith has been through a lot of shit. But
I give him a lot of credit over the years. He's like 9-0 against the spread, I think. In his last 9 starts, I may have in his I got to check that. I may have read that wrong. But either way, he's a really, really good number 2. Really good backup quarterback in the NFL. Kenny Vaccaro told me a funny story about Geno Smith. When we were before the draft, and when I was with the Saints, I took Vaccaro to dinner and talking about what's a player you love playing against? And he said Geno Smith. He said because every time he walked up, whenever he was trying to disguise something, Geno would be calling the cadence and looking around, and then Geno would give him the middle finger right before he would snap it. He said Geno would look at him and give him the middle finger and then snap.
Are you serious?
Vaccaro was like, he said Geno, he liked that. He thought Geno was tough. He's like, that guy's tough. Geno is tough. Yeah.
Absolutely. He's always, I remember having a conversation with him
I thought he'd be a better, I thought he had a chance to be a better, like he is what he is. He's a ideal number 2. And that's okay to be an ideal backup. I think Tyrod Taylor is an ideal backup.
Even a decade into the league, he can move pretty well.
He can get done what you need to get done.
But what's the game plan in Seattle? Like, are you trying to win this year? Are you trying to lose this year? You have the oldest coach in the NFL. Like, what are you doing?
That's why I didn't understand it. That's why I picked them to be one of the worst teams, because what are you doing? This has got to be his last year. He's not coming back. Pete Carroll. Maybe I'm wrong. I guess I forget some people don't want to do anything else, but
that's the thing, right? Like maybe he's just looking at his life and he thinks, I don't want life without football yet. I like doing this.
Or maybe he's going to retire tomorrow. That was he just wanted to beat Russell Wilson, and now he can.
He's done.
Maybe Belichick was going to retire last year if they beat Tampa.
Right.
And now they have to stay because they have to. I don't know how they keep coaching.
This is going to sound very, very hyperbolic, but just as we sit here talking about coaching and especially the first year head coaches, do you know who has an opportunity to be like the best of all worlds when it comes to game management, when it comes to offensive innovation, when it comes to players wanting to run through a wall for you and you relating to players? It's at the tip of my tongue, and I'll let you say it before I even say it.
I'm going to guess who you're going to say. And you're talking about new coaches?
Yes.
Minnesota. No, you
yes,
weren't
no,
going to say that. Okay.
I'm high on Kevin O'Connell, but
I
Brian
love.
Daboll.
Oh, good call. They're very similar because I think Minnesota bought in. Because your story kind of opened eyes in Minnesota, and then the results were on the field. I think we saw the results of what a coach can bring. Now the players still get it done, but that team does have a build. Like in Minnesota, it was like watching them unleash. Like you could see all their weapons. The Giants.
Let's do that then. Let's talk O'Connell and Daboll.
I love that.
With
I think
O'Connell and
those
the
are two great
Vikes.
calls. Great opening weekends.
I mean, with the Vikings, look at Justin Jefferson's usage. All right, if you want to start with the nitty gritty and the X's and O's, he is only the second player in the last 7 years to have at least 90 yards from the slot and 90 yards from outside in the same game. Now, Green Bay was idiotic for not just sticking Jair Alexander on him. Like, why aren't you putting your $84 million corner on the best player on the opposition? Yeah. Like, just give yourself a puncher's chance. Like, don't overthink this stuff. But Jefferson lined up out wide. He lined up in the slot. He lined up at tight end for a snap. He lined up in the backfield. They're using him like McVay and the Rams use Cooper Kupp. And Jefferson, when physically, is obviously more of a freak than Cooper Kupp.
He's about it. Yeah. Physically, he's.
I'm not down talking Kupp, but I mean, this guy's catch radius is insane.
Insane. I agree.
So you've got all of that. And then guys just want to wake up in the morning and play football for Kevin O'Connell. Like, he makes it an enjoyable experience.
Love it.
It sounds stupid, but it matters. If guys want to go to work and you're at practice, having an adult practice, right? This isn't high school. This isn't junction boys. This isn't 18 and 19-year-old knuckleheads in college. These are grown adults paid to play football. Treat them as such. And Mike Zimmer didn't get it. Kevin O'Connell gets it. And I think that you're seeing players in Minnesota playing freely. I mean, what about the physicality they played with? It kind of is ironic where, like, Zimmer, that's what he wanted. He wanted these kind of collisions.
Yeah.
You don't have to be an asshole about it. Like, the hits that Minnesota was laying, from Harrison Smith to Eric Kendricks to Zadarius Smith, I mean, they were lighting people up all game. For Kevin O'Connell, like, it's very simplistic for us to think, oh, you need an old school coach who's swearing a bunch to play like that. No, like, you don't need that.
Players, they just need to buy into what you're selling. You're gonna get that effort from every team if they buy into you. Like I'll sell out if you're gonna make me the best player I can be and help me win, and I'll sell out for you. Minnesota they bought in. The Giants definitely have bought in because the way that game started, like, it looked like they weren't going to do it. I mean, it was shaky, and then he went over, and Daboll, to his credit, like, he ripped Daniel Jones on that horrible interception. Mm-hmm. Like, he went over there and called him out, and that goes a long way too. Like, players like seeing the quarterback sometimes get questioned because sometimes coaches are, I don't want him. No. It's good to see the other players to see, hey, step your game up. Let's go.
We obviously do this show with Isaiah McKenzie. And I always found it interesting as, last season when we did the show with Isaiah and he's not getting used a bunch and he's basically a decoy. He's just jet sweeping around trying to draw a player, clear a player out so somebody else has success. Yet every time Daboll's name would come up, Isaiah's eyes lit up. I mean, he loved playing for this offensive coordinator, and he would talk about going to barbecues with him, and just, this is somebody who loves his team, loves his players, relates to guys off the field, and he's not even really playing much at that point. Like, he's not really a factor, and he goes out of his way to praise his coach, and as listeners know, Isaiah McKenzie will keep it real on a subject like that. I think the players appreciate authenticity. They appreciate honesty. If you're going to be upfront with them, they'll respect you. That's all they ask for, to your point. That's it. And Daboll has that in spades. It comes from, his lineage. Look at where he comes from, right? He's been around Belichick. He's been around Saban. He's been around Brett Favre.
He says a lot.
Rex Ryan. He's been around a lot of different personalities, a lot of different coaches, similar to Kevin O'Connell, right? O'Connell was drafted by Belichick, was cut after a year as a third-round pick. Yet he didn't bitch, he didn't complain, he didn't moan. He had great, valuable conversations with Robert Kraft, with Bill Belichick, with Josh McDaniels that he still treasures to this day. Goes to Rex Ryan. Those 2 years they reached the AFC Championship game. Has incredible things to say about Rex, calls him one of his mentors. But you take the good out of a coach. I mean, head coaches are so multifaceted. There was a lot of good to Rex Ryan, and there was a lot of not so good to Rex Ryan, as we've talked about. But he takes the good. Guys want to run through a wall for this guy. You take the good from a Bill Belichick, the accountability, and maybe you don't take the bad, where some guys like Kenny Moore told us were depressed playing for this guy. It just sucked the fun out of it. You make it fun, yet you hold guys accountable. It's a tricky balance. It's hard to thread that needle. But I feel like Brian Daboll and Kevin O'Connell have the experience and the skill set as a head coach to thread that needle.
That being said, they'll probably both lose this week, and we'll rip them out. But to your point, I do love, like, if we're going to be hard on the first year head coaches, we should give out the first year head coaches that at least showed us some signs of what those teams, what they were hoping to get when they hired them. And I like the way Daboll, I like his whole, his demeanor at the end of that game against Tennessee for the Giants, I thought was awesome. Where you look at Hackett's demeanor, like, I just have never seen a coach congratulating the players that we ran one play in the last minute with 3 timeouts and we're settling for a 64-yard field goal. Hey, great job.
It was strange. That definitely popped. Yeah.
That's wrong. But anyway, I don't want to, because look, long season, like you said, but once again.
Maybe he might have thought they were closer than they were. You know what I mean? That's the troubling thing.
Well, that's bad too. I mean, once again, that should be, that stuff is talked about usually before the drive, where the special teams coach, hey, we need to get here to try one. So
on the New York Giants, though, Jim, where is this team? Where is this franchise? I think they found the coach. They found the GM. I mean, Joe Shane.
I love the combination. I still don't buy into the quarterback situation. I'm still a little bit worried up front for them, offensive line. I know they made some, but Tennessee was still putting,
Saquon Barkley averaged 9 yards a carry.
No, it's true. I don't know. I'm not a Daniel Jones believer, so I think you're going to be handcuffed as a coach until you get that quarterback right.
Agreed. They'll probably go to Tyrod, at some point.
Tyrod. I gotta get used to that too. But that's not the answer either.
That's what I'm saying.
Their answer is not on their team this year. Now
it's going to be next year, right?
It'll be next year.
So they're trying to compete. They're trying to win.
Yeah.
That
try
matters.
to win
Don't tank. Don't just give up.
Oh, no. You go, because Daboll might, he and Daniel Jones might click together. It's a long season. So I'm not a Jones believer right now, but maybe something happens with he and Daboll where it clicks.
I loved how they just went out and they had the opportunity to do whatever they wanted with 2 high picks, and you get a tackle, you get a pass rusher. We haven't seen Kayvon Thibodeau yet, obviously, but
if you didn't like
try to take care of premium positions off the get-go.
Yeah. If you didn't value the quarterback at that spot, you did the right thing. You can't force it. So that's a sign of a good GM and coach tandem. The sign of a bad tandem was, the Buddy Nix and Marone and Whaley and Russ Brandon, like, who knew who was making that decision for EJ, and was it forced?
I was just going to say, to this day, people think that you were involved with that draft.
I wasn't there. I was in the Saints.
You were with the Saints.
Yeah.
But people can think what they want to think, but Doug has been honest in conversations.
He's honest about it.
And he would not be just making this up and inventing it, but he had a 3rd round grade on EJ Manuel in 2012 when he was the 16th overall pick. It looks like that's a Doug Whaley pick because Buddy Nix quit right after that. But Buddy Nix thought he had delivered a franchise quarterback to the Buffalo Bills. Now, where Doug, we got to be fair, like where he screwed up is doubling down, like right.
I was a part of that. I was a part of the Sammy, yeah. And that was forced.
Which, you know what though? What's wild is that's kind of the formula today. Like that's what every team is doing with young quarterbacks. It's like we don't know if this guy's really good, but let's surround him with all this talent. Like, is Jalen Hurts good? We don't know.
You can't stop a good receiver. Like, it's impossible to defend a good receiver the way the rules are set up.
It's a good point. Yeah.
If you're a talented receiver, you can't be defended. And I think that's why teams are getting excited, because you see the numbers these receivers are starting to put up. I mean, it's the catches. I like how you kept talking about Justin Jefferson's radius. And I mean, look at that catch Deontay Johnson made for the Steelers. I mean, he's not a tall guy. That's just going up and just being an athletic, NFL football player. Special. Those are special plays that not many people can make.
Personnel-wise, is there anything the Giants can kind of build upon? Is it, you watch that game? What
skill
stood
set?
out? I mean, Saquon Barkley, hey, he's fighting for.
What do I always say about him? And he looked exactly what I always say: home run hitter.
Yeah,
he can hit a home run every time he touches the ball, especially in the screen game, because he hits his top speed instantly. He catches it and he goes. Yeah. He's a big, strong, explosive, fast player. He's just not. I just don't think he has great make you miss. I don't think he has great vision as a runner. He's just a really good talent. I mean, I don't think it's not his fault where he was drafted. It's hard to live up to that number. You're drafted that high as a running back. He's certainly a guy you can win football games with. Use him the right way, and just don't expect him to be Adrian Peterson, or he's not going to be that. That's not him. Speaking of that, how about him getting knocked out? Adrian Peterson in a boxing match with
right.
Did you see that with Le'Veon Bell?
All 70 people in attendance or whatever it was.
That depressed me too. I didn't like see that. Depressed me.
That's kind of sad.
It was like watching Flacco start for the Jets. Like, it just makes me sad. Like,
it does. Yeah, it's oof.
It's just like, ugh, that's how you roll out the season. Like, how do Peterson and Bell, like, they don't need to do that.
I mean, Le'Veon Bell, it's so easy to forget that he was the best player in football at one point.
Not even in the league. But he'll probably be back with the Ravens before we know it, because I think all the running backs are hurt for the 10th straight year. I still don't understand what happens to their running backs.
His style of running was so unique, and he could catch the ball, he could run routes, and then he just didn't play for a year. And I get it, you're trying to prove a point.
You're so right. And it's funny how people try to copy his. You can't copy his style. That was all him.
Yeah.
Every running back coach
come to a stop.
When everybody started trying to do the crossover dribble, and Iverson was putting it out there, and Kobe, and every coach in high school is probably like, great. Like right now, every kid in high school is trying to jack threes from half court. It's not for everybody. And Le'Veon Bell, his style, that was his. That's not for everybody.
It's so funny you say that, because we talked for a story when I was at Bleacher Report ahead of the wild card game against Miami. It would have been 2016, I believe, maybe 17. And, Bell is just dominating, and we chatted, and he said it was his goal to get kids running the way he runs. And he wanted to be the Steph Curry of the NFL. He wanted to change the game and change the position. And I don't think he accomplished it, now that we're a few years removed, because you got to hit the hole. I mean, you got to be patient, yes, but that patient where you wait and go, it only speaks to his greatness. It's no slight. It just speaks to
100% agree
how special he was in this blip of time. And it's just sad because, man, I get it. We want players to get all the money they can get. They deserve it, especially these running backs fighting for what they can get. These running backs, it's like to get to that second contract, it's so hard. To get money on that second contract is even harder when you're playing this disposable position. But he hurt himself by just not playing for an entire season. I mean, you hurt your value. You end up, going to the Jets to decay, and it's a wrap, basically. He had a good thing going. We had Ramon Foster on a few months back, and
Oh yeah.
I think it drove those linemen nuts sometimes. It's like, hit the hole, just go. I got it. But he knew what he was doing back there. He did.
Reggie Bush used to drive our offensive linemen nuts too, but for different reasons, like trying to do too much, you know.
Man, why didn't Reggie Bush just light the NFL on fire, Jim?
Because at the end of the day, there's just too much speed and quickness on defense. It's just not that easy. It's just not that easy. That I think it's that simple. Because I still say, when you look what Reggie did in Miami and Detroit, he was pretty good at both those places too. I mean, so to me, he goes to every team and puts up numbers, which tells you his talent. I think maybe the unreal expectations of what he did in college, where we drafted him, it was probably a little unrealistic to think he could be, because he wasn't a guy that you could line up at running back every play. To use him correctly is to put him in the slot, you know, and just admit what he is and get him out in space as much as you can. When you take a guy number 2, you feel like you should just be able to hand him the ball every play or throw him the ball every play. But he needed to be used right.
Because even at USC, he had Lendell White to do some of the heavy hitting.
And we talk about that a lot in New Orleans. There was a combo going on there, and we kind of struck. It kind of really was good for us when Pierre Thomas, even with Deuce McAllister, was on his way. I mean, we had that thud combo to go with Reggie's speed and athleticism. So,
all right, we're gonna get into the games this week, but real quick,
let's
Jim,
go through some games. Let's get.
One of our loyal listeners
I gotta be honest,
had a
Tyler,
question.
I haven't done. I haven't put a lot of thought into who I'm betting on yet, but I will tell you this. I'm actually thinking about taking the Jets against the Cleveland Browns.
Well, before we get into these games.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to tell you that's how bad
DMing them back right now. Our buddy Colin in New Jersey, big Bills fan, he listens to every episode. Yeah. He actually was throwing money down on the Louis locks last year, which are now the Fatty locks. And when we were on a roll there for a while.
My fatty locks aren't off to a fat start.
But we'll pick it up.
I was 1-2. What were you? What were your picks on fatty locks?
I don't even know. I don't even remember who I picked. I can't remember. Had too many of these Montuckies, you know. These Montuckies, they hit you from Montana.
There are some nights after I gamble that I try to erase what I took. It didn't happen.
But I really want to know how everybody's fantasy football team is doing. If anybody can help me out, can you please inform me how your fantasy squad's doing? Because I deeply, deeply care.
So you know my thing. Today? The 3 things that I don't ever need to hear about: fantasy football, how your bracket's doing in March Madness, and how your golf game, how you played at golf today.
Awful.
Those 3 things are just
shoot these people to the sun.
Keep them to yourself.
Go Colin. Ahead. Well, just I'm bringing this up because you hit on it earlier, actually.
Yeah.
But he DM'd me and do this anytime. You know, I didn't float it out there on Twitter for questions, but just hit us up if you want us to talk about something. We'll get into it. He asked, what's going on with all these Raven injuries over the last 2-3 years? There must be a story there. I mean, right? You just said they're losing everybody again.
I love that question because I had the same question.
Right. No clue.
We don't know.
So we don't have an answer for that.
We don't have an answer. It's one that needs found out. Like, that is insane.
But this one's pretty interesting. I like this. Who's the player that got away? Is there a guy, if you offered a few more dollars to, that would have been a bill, or a trade that you could have pulled off, like Hopkins when he got traded for a mid-round pick? Is there somebody out there, he asks, that, you know, is somewhere in the back of your mind, Jim? Like, damn it, that's the one that got away. I don't think it's Antonio Brown for Brandon Beane because things worked out, you know, with Stephon Diggs. That worked out just fine. It's crazy.
Can you imagine? That's a great call. Like,
is there a player though? Is there a guy that you really wish?
I'm trying to think of a big name player. There were some small ones, like late round guys that at the end of the day, that's more of personal thing. I'm trying to think free agency wise. I don't feel like we ever swung and missed on anybody. Because we weren't like heavy hitters when I was in Buffalo free agent wise. We kind of, just trying to remember if there was a disappointment. No, I'll think more, but off the top of my head, I can't.
You were thinking about Kirk Cousins?
No, that's the thing. We really weren't. Like, that's what I'm saying. That wasn't one that we did good work on. Like, we didn't think he was good. He wasn't for us.
All right.
Yeah, I'd have to think more about.
Okay. Well, I'm dropping this on you out of nowhere, so that's fine.
Because that's what's funny though. We didn't have like we. I'm trying to think in draft wise if one just like threw us completely. No, I'll go back and look, but yeah.
All right, this is we'll get to the games here in a second, but let's finish. Colin hit us with some great thoughts here.
I love questions. Love the questions.
He also asks, I don't want to misquote him. What off-season opinion did you have that you immediately think is wrong after week 1? That's a great question.
I didn't put enough. I got a great answer. Do you have one? Like where you thought first week? Mine's Carolina.
You go first.
Yeah, mine's the Carolina Panthers. I was looking at their roster too much, and I forgot about good old Matt Rule.
Coaching matters.
Coaching matters. And I'm not buying it. Not buying it. I feel like I was probably a little, so that would be the one I'm a little like, Because
I'm too stubborn, I'm not ready to throw the towel in on
I'm not throwing the towel in on Carolina, but I'm certainly like, that was like a little gut punch, like,
Yeah, right. It's easier for me to double down on saying the Dallas Cowboys are going to be a dumpster fire than it is, say, support my Kyler Murray column from a few weeks back.
Say it, because we didn't even talk about that game yet because we did our pod before that game was played Sunday night.
Yeah, man. I don't want to overreact to week 1. I don't want to overreact in any of these games. But
so I don't like to use I don't like to use the and I'll talk about this a little bit when I do my column sometimes, but everybody always says who's on the hot seat. I don't like the hot seat. I always like to say who's sitting in the sauna right now.
Yeah.
Wait for that door to open. They're sweating, because saunas are where a lot of that's a lot of. I love saunas for your football. That's where you used to go in sometimes talk football with whatever. I'm thinking that sauna right now is packed with like Kingsbury, McCarthy, Matt Rule, and I just feel like we're gonna start pulling them out one by one. Like hey Mike, come on out. We're letting you out of the sauna today. Your time here is good. Sean Payton has agreed to a $20 million.
Man, I have to give him something here myself, though. The Bears-Niners game is tricky because of the weather, so I'm not going to go there yet on Trey. I know Trey Lance didn't look good. I've been high on him. I'm not going to
give it time, though. Give it time. Don't evaluate that game. Don't do that game.
But I'm going to be in agreement with you on one team, the LA Rams. I'm not so sure they're going to scare anybody this year. I had them in the playoffs in our predictions, and I thought they'd still kind of be in the mix.
They still might make them. I mean, they still will. I think they'll make the mix.
Yeah, they should. I feel like Stafford's going to revert to the Stafford that we've seen, and that they'll kind of hover around 500 most of the year, and they're not going to be a Super Bowl.
But what's funny is when you look at that division.
That's true.
49ers, we talk about being low. 49ers are loaded, but
right.
Unproven quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Arizona, what the hell was that? And
it's hard to answer that question because the NFC is just a cluster.
So I'm saying nobody's going to be out of it. You're set. This is going to be one of those years where you can be 7-10 or 8-9 now. You can be 8-9 and probably sneak in the playoffs now.
But the Rams looked a lot worse than what I expected. I thought that was going to be an entertaining game back and forth, and the Rams should have lost 55-10. Like 31-10 was kind.
I agree with you on that.
All right, let's whip through these games quick, Jim. All right.
Yeah, let's go. It's interesting. There's some
Thursday, Chargers,
Thursday
Chiefs,
night.
Herbert,
What a great,
Mahomes.
might be the best game of the weekend. Yep. Yeah, I'll gladly. That's a game I'm not going to be betting heavily on because that is enjoy that game and enjoy it. That's a stud game. The number's right where it should be. Chiefs minus 3.5, 4, which is a tricky number. It's hard to take the Chiefs in that. It's always hard to bet against the Chiefs. They're good at putting their spreads out, but.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think we just kick back, enjoy it. Mahomes, Herbert, going back and forth.
That's
what about
that's
the Chargers
a fun game
pass
to watch.
rush though? Like the Chargers got after Derek Carr. I mean, sacks, hits, hurries. That's something I was wrong on. I wasn't really sure Khalil Mack was going to have much in him. I don't know. It seemed like somebody that's making a little too much money. Somebody that's got a lot of reps, a lot of snaps.
I don't know where he's at. I don't know where I'd put him on the dominant. If he's at, I don't know if he's as dominant as he was at one point. But
no, I mean Joey Bosa, they've got a pass rush.
I think you still have to account for Mac though too. That combo is pretty strong. I like their secondary too.
Jets Browns. Some would say this is the game of the week, Jim.
That's the best game of the week.
By some, I mean a dozen or so people.
I'm one. Flacco and Brissett.
Browns are favored by 6.
Herbert, Mahomes, or Flacco, Brissett. And that's what you get. And guess what? I can't wait to watch that Jets-Browns game. That is going to be
right. So basically, like Herbert Mahomes is like you've got yourself a pulp daddy, one of these Montuckies. You're trying to decide between those two beers. When you get Jets Browns, that's when you're reaching for the back of the fridge and there's like I don't know. There's what do you want to say? Like
it would be one of those that you bought for a party because you didn't know what everybody liked.
It's a Keystone that somebody else brought 3 years ago.
Like a flavored beer for somebody that you didn't know if they might want it. Or
it's an off-brand seltzer that your friend brought 5 years ago in the back of the fridge. Is what we're looking at there. Yeah.
Like if you were accidentally took a sip of it, you didn't know what it was, and you just took a sip. You get that look right away, like, what was that?
Yeah.
That's how that Jets, you put that Brissett and Flacco on, you're like, wait a second. What is this?
The better analogy is probably this for Jets Browns. It's getting caught with beer your freshman year of college, and your RA makes you uncork all the beers and dump them into the sink.
It hurts.
Right. It hurts. That definitely happened. It
definitely happens.
Right. You're not getting in trouble. You're not getting written up. It's not in your record, but you're forced to dump the beer. You're forced to dump Jets Browns down the drain.
I'm forced to watch and bet on that game.
You're betting on that game?
I'm taking the Jets. Jacoby Brissett.
You don't have to. You don't have to.
I have
your
to.
Money. God.
I'm trying to get my son to college. All right, go ahead. I shouldn't say that.
Hey, we apologize for wasting everybody's last 2.5 minutes talking about this atrocity of a football game. Commanders Lions. Now there's a game I can get down with. Commanders and the Lions. I'm going to Detroit tomorrow morning, driving to Detroit. We're going to get some Lions coverage going here at Go Along. Cannot wait for everybody to read this.
This game is
a fun team. It's a fun team.
This game is watchable. Good. It's watchable.
The Lions ran all over Philly. Well, the only problem was Philly ran all over Detroit. And Carson Wentz, okay. We talked on Sunday night. I went back and I watched that game. I thought Carson Wentz played a little bit better than what you were selling.
Here's what I said in that game. I said, when you watch Carson Wentz, you're going to see the worst quarterback in the history of football and sometimes the best quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I never watched a guy that can make so many great plays and so many just game-changing horrible plays. He's had that.
What you want out of your starting quarterback. That's what you're looking for.
That's been him, but that's what I'm saying. That's where he's got to just – there's certainly – how much I loved Wentz coming out. I mean, we talked about it. I wanted us to go after him and draft him in Buffalo.
You did. That's when we first met at the Senior Bowl. We bumped into each other,
and I
and
definitely
your eyes were like saucers watching that guy.
I thought he had everything that you could want, and he's a little too jittery and
herky jerky.
Herky jerky is what I always say. Yeah, all that in the pocket. But man, when he makes some of those throws, you see the talent.
Yeah, I like the Lions in this game mainly because I can't get down with Commanders quite yet. I'm just looking at that. I just can't really process that in my head.
I agree. I like the Lions there.
All right, this is always a fun game. Bucks, Saints. The Saints always give the Bucks everything they can handle. Jameis
Agreed.
Woke up like crazy in that fourth quarter. But Tampa Bay, top to bottom, tough pound for pound players. We saw it there in Dallas last Sunday night.
This is a game that I would like I said, I'd take the Jets. I would take the Lions. I'm probably not going to bet this Saints game. If I would take the Saints because they have something about them at home against Tampa. They find a way, but man, I can't get Jameis out of my head right now. I'm just not a Jameis believer. Never have been.
He looked really good at the end of the game.
Played well when
it matters when you play well when you have to play well, doesn't it?
He's done some good things. This is more me saying I'm not saying Jameis doesn't do. He does do some good things. Not a playoff quarterback for me.
I'm going Tom Brady. I'm going Tampa Bay, but I'm not as down on Jameis as you right now.
It's fair.
Your Panthers against your Giants. It's a tough one.
Gross game. Gross. I'll take the Giants at under the 3, but
You're just going to give up on Carolina that quickly?
No, I'm not giving up on them, but I think not giving up, but to go to Tennessee, that's a legit win. Mm-hmm. Like Carolina lost to the Browns at home.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard for me to get past. But the way the NFL is, we know Carolina by 20.
Yeah.
No, but that game's scary. But
it's a toss-up. I wouldn't bet on it.
I agree. It's a scary game.
I think Baker Mayfield came alive there late, and you have to think McCaffrey revs up a little bit.
Carolina's talent is so good.
Yeah. And I don't know how much home field advantage didn't really seem to mean much.
It doesn't mean anything to Vegas anymore either. They got rid of that 3-point thing.
Really?
Yeah, it's down to like 1.5. It's just the last couple of years it's shown home field has shown no value.
Patriots Steelers.
Oh, this is your game.
I like the Steelers.
The game should finish 6-3 with 20 interceptions, no running. There'll be no rushing yards, a lot of interceptions, and two of the greatest coaches in the history of football.
I'm shocked that New England is favored by 1.5.
I'm not after what you told me, though. You told me that Watt and
well, but Najee Harris is going to play now as we're taping this. He's a little banged up.
He's a good running back. He's not special.
I guess I'm so down on the Patriots right now. I thought they looked bad. Like they looked like a bad football team against Miami. Like it was 20-7, but a lot like that Rams-Bills game. It should have been much worse. And I think, the Steelers eked out a win, even though they won the turnover battle 5-0. At home with legit weapons on the outside that New England doesn't have, with about the same quarterbacks. Give me Pittsburgh. I think that's easy money. I do.
We'll make sure we play this back next week. There's no such thing as I can't even ever say that statement in the NFL. That game scares me to death.
Colts Jags?
No, the Patriots Steelers game. I really want no part of it because I think both teams are terrible on offense, but whatever. Colts Jags. So my column's going to come out this week, and I did Carson Wentz too and Trevor in that game just to kind of break down what the study of the stats and kind of explain a little bit. I did Trevor so far, and you'll see in my column, but
Right.
There's
Tease it.
issues.
Save the good stuff.
Yep, issues.
Issues.
Colts in Jacksonville. That's where the whole thing went crazy last year, right? At the end of the season. I hate the game. I would actually probably take Jacksonville getting 4 at home, but I don't like that game. That Colts team, I need to watch them more to see what Matt Ryan, what they have going there.
I probably like the Colts just because the defense is loaded.
Their defense is
got the
legit.
best running back.
Yeah.
I feel like there'll be a little urgency after tying the Texans. I think it's gonna be a good game. I think it's gonna be a fun game. That's one I would definitely want to record if you're objective and don't really care about any games here. All right, Dolphins, Ravens. I like the Dolphins, but the Ravens, man, you're high on their roster, top to bottom.
I'm a Baltimore
with these
believer
injuries.
this year.
Do the injuries skew you, stray
They
you
do.
at all from take?
They always scare me, but if Lamar's healthy, he makes up for whatever. He's such a wild card. Like you can have injuries wherever you want on offense. He'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I think I'm Baltimore there.
It's in Baltimore too, so
yeah, I think Baltimore gets them.
Just to be a contrarian, I'll go with Miami.
I feel
Straight
like you like the outright win.
Yeah.
That would put them on the map. That would make a lot of people pay attention to McDaniel as a coach. Those veteran coaches like Harbaugh, they don't want to lose to a rookie head coach.
McDaniel did a hell of a job in against New England, I should say. I thought he coached a great
I like
management-wise.
I like a lot about him.
You know, going for it there, the slant to Jalen Waddle at the end of the half. There's a lot of plays left on the field. And he's got his quarterbacks back. I mean, publicly, McDaniel said something to the effect of, "Hey, Tua got me out of a lot of jams." Well, he's looking after his guy, which players
Smart.
They like that.
They like that.
Tua's got to step up. I mean, there were plays to be had, and he didn't make them. He wasn't terrible. Hey, Tua wasn't terrible.
I agree.
But I love what I see out of their coaching. Falcons, Rams. The Rams are favored by 10.5, Jim. 10.5.
That's a lot of points for me. That's a lot of points. Now, can Atlanta recover? Can Atlanta this is the true sign of a coach, getting your team together after you blew a game. Now you got to go on the road against a team who got embarrassed on national TV, which anytime you see a team get embarrassed, especially a good team, they don't usually have 2 bad weeks in a row. That's a lot of points, though.
Okay, I'm going to give you 4 games, Jim, and then we're going to get to the 2 doozies at the end. But these 4, just give me rapid fire, like 1 sentence, gut feeling, what's on your mind. Seahawks, 49ers.
Love the 49ers in this game.
Bengals, Cowboys.
I can't even talk. I mean, I got burned last year when I took Kirk Cousins against Cooper Rush. So I'm not taking Dallas. No.
Texans, Broncos.
Wait, who's Denver play?
Texans.
Oh, I'm taking
Denver's
those points.
Denver's favored by 10.
I don't know how Denver can be favored by double digits against anybody.
Cardinals, Raiders.
Gross. I like the Raiders, but that Cardinals, they got to look better though. Wow, it was terrible.
Green Bay is favored by 10 against the Chicago Bears on Sunday Night Football. They've got to look in the mirror. They've got to make some changes. You can't be operating off improvisation and freelancing and a telepathic connection with a receiver when that receiver ain't walking through that door.
Wait, do they have to recover from a drop pass is what you're saying?
I think Green Bay is going to be fine. I mean, look at their schedule.
They're going to be
5 of their next 6 games are pretty easy. Like they're not at Lambeau Field against the Bears. prime time. We know how this goes down. Green Bay is going to win easily. I mean, 10 points seems like nothing. I'd take Green Bay running away there. And I get it. They got some issues, but the Bears roster is not good.
Agree again. I like Green Bay.
All right.
I love Justin Fields, and I feel bad for him still.
Our Western New York listeners on bated breath for Titans, Bills. The Bills are favored by 10, even though they've had some problems with the Titans the last couple of years. This is a team that's, 2 years ago, they really pushed them around. Last year, it came down to the last play, obviously. I mean, the Titans just lost to the Giants at home, so maybe the conversation ends there. And the Bills did a hell of a job against the Rams run game. I know, but Derrick Henry's a different beast. I get it. It doesn't. I'd be shocked if the Titans were able to give them.
I'd be shocked if the Titans win, but that's a lot of points. And that's a playoff team that has pride and just lost, like you said, to the Giants. Like you can't. The NFL erase what you saw last week. Remember, always erase last week. Get it out of your head. It's a new week. And everybody is, when I say everybody, the general public is we saw Buffalo, Super Bowl favorite, embarrass the Rams.
Right.
Titans lose to the Giants. Never that easy. So I to be honest, I think the Bills win, but something tells me Titans cover.
Well said, Jim. I could not agree more. I think that Mike Vrabel is too prideful of a coach to lose to an inferior opponent at home.
Yes.
And come back and lay an egg. So I think the Titans do put up a fight, but the Bills win. I'm with you there.
This will be a good one for the Bills to understand that there aren't going to be any weeks off, and you guys show up every week and when you're this good. And they just need to show up. I think, like I said, they could show up and just nothing crazy. They should win the game, but they're going to have to fight for this one.
Be sure to check out our Fatty Locks by Sunday morning to really see what we believe. That's like a teaser of sorts. That's a little betting foreplay, one could say.
Fatty winners, fatty locks. We got it all.
Well, this was fun, Jim. I can't wait to get you down here next week. We're going to do it in person. We're going to do it with our readers, our listeners. Get on down here to Fatty, hang out with us. It'll be a good time. So
I'm jealous of you right now.
Hey, you'll be here soon to drink a little Pulp Daddy. Drink a little Montucky out in Montana. Cold snack.
Get my Ricky Henderson beer ready. Get my lead off.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Check out all of our stuff, golongtd.com. You can download the Go Long podcast, Apple, Spotify. Please rate it, review it, share it. That's how we get this thing to grow, is you just, copy and pasting that link, sending it to a friend if you enjoyed it. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much.